So welcome, David. We're so glad that you're here. We're going to talk a little bit about some of your biggest challenges for 2024 and some of your successes. So let's
Mhm.
go ahead and start with the biggest challenge you've overcome in 2024.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Amanda, for
Mhm.
having me. It's always a pleasure. And
Yes.
I'd say our biggest challenge in 2024 is the same that it is every year. Really, it's helping individuals understand that they're not the expert in every area that they work in. And let me say that again, it's helping individuals understand that they're not the expert in every area that they work in. And I think it's challenging for all of us, right? We've worked and in our profession and we believe we're really good at it, but I think the challenge is what we see in working with so many individuals at companies is that many of them are handling 10, 20 different areas within their company and they're managing it. And I always look at it as my question I ask them is then, how long have you been working in this area? Have you done it
Mhm.
before? And maybe they have for multiple years. Maybe they've done it at other companies, but I also then ask, well, how often do you benchmark or do you take this area out for bid? And, most individuals, they're maybe doing it every 2 or 3 years, hopefully, right? I don't know
Right.
if you would agree with that. So,
Maybe.
yeah, so I look at it, okay, if you've been at a company, 5, 10 years, maybe you've taken it out to bid 3 times, and if you're lucky. And I think it's from that, it's how can you be an expert in an area when you're only looking at it so often? So,
Hmm.
I think you probably with your business too see that same where you get involved with people and how long have they, maybe sourced, tech or looked at, again, how are you really doing change management? How
Yeah.
often do you do that or have you done that? And I kind of relate that back to in our areas of expertise, we're looking at, 200 plus, 300 plus contracts a year in any given area. So we're going to see what other companies are doing in the area, taking that knowledge, building it into our database, as well as what suppliers are doing. So I think it's really just, again, helping individuals see that, hey, there is an opportunity to improve what you're doing in a given area, but you have to be open-minded to be able to want to do that too. And I think that's such a challenge, and we see that every year. But I say 8 out of 10 times when we talk to somebody, we start to then show our expertise and have those conversations. They start to think, okay, it could be an opportunity, and I really think that's where we've shifted our model a little bit to where we're doing all the analysis at no cost up front to come back and give
Hmm.
this report and show what the opportunity is. And from there, why wouldn't someone, have a free analysis to see what the opportunity is? So again, that's been our biggest challenge every year, and I know it'll continue to be our biggest challenge as we go on.
Well, some maybe good news for you, David. I've been in some of my clients. We've had conversations about different work that they're doing, how they're
Mhm.
transforming their organizations, and I've heard, particularly in IT, but maybe this could be a good indication of other categories. Several CPOs tell me that they're hiring outside experts to help them with those deals.
Okay, that is great news to hear.
So maybe that it's shifting a little bit, or there's an understanding that hiring some experts in certain categories would be a huge benefit, and you're going to have more savings, maybe quicker results to those savings. So instead of taking 8 months, it might take 6 months or four
Mhm.
months to get through a contract negotiation. Maybe you could do targeted negotiations just with your current supplier and get a better contract with them versus going out to RFP fully. So all kinds of options when you bring in an expert.
No, absolutely. I would agree. I always look at it as like, you know, I would never do my own taxes. Am I an expert at doing my own taxes or no, I want to find someone that really knows that area. But yeah, no, it's always a mindset, and maybe sometimes it's a little bit of pride, right, from people that they've done an area and they really
Yes.
know it. So you try to see about that. But to me, it's always about, hey, you take the credit for this. We're working together, and you have to vet it out and approve it. But no, interesting. Well, it's good to hear that though too. If you're seeing that from CPOs, that's music to my ears then.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay. So can you tell me a specific case study or story from this past year with one of your clients. And if you can give us a little bit of understanding of what the situation was before you started engaging with the client, what it was like engaging with that client, and the success that they've had afterwards.
No, absolutely. And it's really good timing that you're asking me that, because just was working with the marketing team yesterday and then a little bit this morning on writing up this case study that we're going to put on our website. And I look at it as we mainly work with companies that are 2,000 plus employee, larger companies. We work with some mid-sized companies, and even I'll say some smaller companies where, to me, a smaller company is maybe 500 employees. And this one out, again, we're just going through it. It's actually a Fortune 75 company, so a fairly large company, global in reach, tens of thousands of employees. And it was a contract area that had high spend. It had high visibility even within the company. But they've had, multiple people work on this area, and actually it's so big, they actually have two different people managing it because they have different suppliers. They don't want a single source. So they were like, okay, we're going to have individual people manage it. So again, just looking at some of this write-up we were doing, the spend, and you could say is big, not big. It was $14 million spend. So I want to say it's a decent size spend. Yeah. So I think for them, and they believe they had pretty tight contracts. Again, hundreds of locations. And so that was kind of like the current state. And I was talking to the contact there, and I said, well, what if we, do an audit for you? So again, a lot of what we'll do, it could start just with a contract audit or review. And he's like, you know what, I do believe that we can use some assistance. I mean, we've had somebody just took this over just about a year. And so that's the thing too. I think when you start to look at what is the turnover in companies too. And so a big thing, right, is the transfer of knowledge when you have individuals. And that's what I always try to look at too when I'm talking to the C-suite, to say you could have solid people, but if the contract's turned over, depending on the expertise and who set up the contract initially, what year are you in it, you could be, again, I'll say, eroding that contract based on not having that expertise there. So in this particular case, they were able then to give us the contracts, and that's usually how we always engage first. Let's look at your current contracts. And this particular one, Amanda, just with the one supplier, again, they had it divided up. It was pretty amazing, because what we found is they had a ceiling contract in place, which is really odd to see in instances. But again, large company and the way that they were doing it. So really it was an opportunity there where they were not going to be charged over this. So whenever they were coming in under, the company was actually reporting it as cost savings based on where they were at. So it was kind of like
interesting.
Interesting scenario. Okay. But again, we were able to review this and look at the spend in the different areas. And again, it was hundreds of SKUs too that were involved in this. And this actually had to do with uniforms for this company. So it was a big manufacturing company, distribution company. And again, I just think it was the challenge there for them to really understand it, and the way that industry is. And if anyone that's ever analyzed it, there's a lot of different changes that go on at the site level. There's upselling by the reps that come in to the business. So lo and behold, after looking at this spend, we were able to find just under $5 million of savings.
Oh.
It was just an astronomical number. A little caveat with this too, though, is that they just, when they had renewed it like 2 years ago, they took the signing bonus. So here there was this big number, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, the supplier was happy to pay that out, knowing they were making this pretty big margin. And so we had to start to look at that there was a clawback and even a penalty in this. If we came back in with cost savings, what could that percentage be? And so we actually then had to come in under what the percentage would be, so they wouldn't have to give back the whole clawback for the signing bonus. It was pretty remarkable, but they do have to give back a percentage. But when we looked at it, if we restructure this, and the savings could be, $1 million plus each year for the next couple of years, and then ultimately maybe even extend the contract, really paying that money back is not going to be a big deal. But again, it's understanding the contract and then helping the individual that's managing that to understand it, but then also involving leadership to say, okay, here's the scenario, here's how you're locked in. But the other benefit is, with all of these supplier areas that we focus in, we know the leadership at these suppliers and they've
Right.
worked with us before. So it's, going to somebody and saying, hey, I'll just say, Jim, here's the scenario. We know where you're at here. This is what the opportunity is. You want to retain the business. You've been a good supplier, but we just need to get this contract more in line with what should be I'll say, agreeable to both parties. And again, we're all about suppliers making money, right? Everybody wants
Yeah.
a fair contract, just like you do as well. But it's, when sometimes things have maybe just been overlooked, but it was bringing that to the table. So it was pretty interesting, but we were able then to extend the contract for him with that supplier, add a couple more years on it. So the supplier was happy, but then again, they took that haircut. So essentially they're going to end up saving, like I said, probably when it's all said and done, I'll say the number is going to be closer to 5 million because we found some other areas that they were also
Hmm.
buying within that supplier. So again, that was a pretty nice success story to see that. But again, and I think I want to make a point there too. It's you think bigger companies, they manage everything the best and they know everything the best. They have all the people. It all depends, right? I mean, we've seen,
Yep.
mid-sized companies where individuals have expertise and they manage it well, and we've seen it at large companies too. But I think it's just with any company, it's the bandwidth and the knowledge, and then really how are you able to make sure that you're managing everything effectively. And of course, turnover, right? We're seeing more and more turnover with people too. So when you lose that knowledge from someone that's been managing a contract too, that really is critical within a company.
Hmm. And it's not like uniforms are a very straightforward category.
Right, right. No, no, you know that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like some of these areas, and we've seen that in the contingent labor space where we play too. That's
Hmm.
been exciting. We've gotten involved in multiple global contracts and doing RFPs for companies there, but it's just helping companies understand, what are the opportunities per country. And then, of course, the other big one in the HR space is just the employee benefits. That to me is like how procurement used to be 20 years ago, where it's really kind of green field because HR's really managed that with their broker
Yeah.
relationship, and it's never really been looked at truly independently, right? With, hey, if someone's independent looking at this, what are the right paths to go down when you're choosing the different contracts associated with it? And I always say there, right? And I know you're a people person. It's the fiduciary responsibility of the employees. Don't you want to make sure you have the best contracts for your employees? I mean,
Yeah.
that's so critical in that employee benefit space. But anyway, I got off a little bit there
Cool.
from the
No,
case
that's
study, but
awesome. No, that's
those
good.
two areas are important, very important.
All right. And you just mentioned being a people person. I know you and I and our companies are very big on partnerships and ecosystems and community. And you have a vast network of people that you know and people who adore you because of how nice and genuine you are and the great work that
Thank
you
you.
do. So the next question is all about how is our partnership between CRA Advisors and Wonder Services contributed to your success?
Oh, no, absolutely. I want to say because really with your company and how you've grown and what you've added, it's really
Yeah.
um it's been a way for me to bring up to our clients additional ways to add value and expertise. And I go back to, gosh, I think it was, it's been well over a year, I guess already,
It
but it's
has.
I think where I had a client that was going through some change adoption and they were looking at tech and they weren't sure what to do and they didn't have the expertise. And that was actually a startup, I believe, if I remember right. And they were pushing close to 1,000 employees, though. I mean, they were
Yeah.
growing. And I said, you know what? I know someone that can help you because they've been through this and they've helped other companies. And then again, knowing your background too, where you've done
Mhm.
this, from in your past life, too.
Right.
So to me, it's just, and again, that was just making a connection, saying that, hey, I want to be able to help out someone that I know that's struggling to be able to do this. And again, to me, I always say my saying is, your network is your net worth, right? It's
Yes.
who do you
Yeah.
know? And then how could you help people? And then it's helping, and again, there was other projects I was trying to do with them, but this was just, hey, how can I help him? So to me, it's if you kind of, pay that forward, it's going to benefit you in the long run. But really the relationship between, you and I and then our companies, it was like, hey, this
Hmm.
is a great way that, again, you can gain some business and you could help out somebody that I know. So, I mean, it was a win-win all the way around. So, no, it's just that's been a nice way. And again, it's just our exposure, right? Of
Right.
knowing each other, continue to build that relationship, and then knowing your team, and then how can we expand that too? And hey, and hopefully, make some recommendations right to each other's
Hmm.
clients. And to me, when you're helping out companies and you're doing it in a way that is positive for them, then it's just a win all the way around.
Absolutely. We loved working with that client, by the way. It was great. It was
Okay,
great.
great.
Fun project. All right, and we're grateful for that. So what are your goals for the coming year? Like when there's so much going on in our world today. So
Hmm.
we're heading into elections, we're right in the middle of election season.
Right.
Um, and so there's a lot unknown, but what are you looking forward to for next year?
Well, really we've been talking about this too, and it kind of just ties into what we just talked about a little bit too with that networking. We're
Mhm.
looking at trying to do some regional events in cities where, again, we've, worked with clients from coast to coast. So I was just starting to look at that where, we have multiple companies that we've worked with within these cities, and some of these individuals they don't even, know each other. We've tried to do some intros, but we're saying, you know what, why don't we do, if it's a happy hour or a whatever, go to Top Golf, do something where we can bring people together, and not just our contacts. Then too, if we could say, hey, if there's team members, how can we bring people together? Because to me, it's all about the community. And if we can get
Yeah,
people to connect, and then, it's the friendships, but then learning from one another too. And when you have people right in the same city, and granted, it might be, 30 minutes apart or whatever it may be, but if you can bring some regional things together, so that's really been a goal, what we've been talking about. And who knows, maybe I could tie something into Ohio State game, get you to come into Columbus.
oh,
and
go to the shoe. I would love that. I would love that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So I know we've been talking about Columbus as possibly the first one. We have multiple companies we work with down there. But again, I think we're looking at that as that's something we want to do this year. And then really adding one or two more areas of expertise to our portfolio too. And we really base that on when we work with clients, and then we get asked, hey, can you help us here? Can you help us
Yeah.
here? And when we start to hear that repeated, we start to look at, okay, there's definitely a need out there in the market for expertise, independent expertise to have that. So we're pretty close on one area to add something new, and I'll definitely let you know when that's
Cool.
finalized. But I think that's always, for us, the goals for the new year is how can we continue to help our clients with new areas of expertise too.
Okay. Awesome. By the way, you're the second founder just today that has mentioned the regional events.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
So, all right. That's exciting. Okay. So now it's the time to impart some David wisdom on others.
Ah, okay. You
Okay.
want some David wisdom? I think the
Uh,
big
yeah. Go
no, go
ahead.
ahead.
Just go
Uh,
for it.
I was gonna say, I think the biggest thing, and you and I are the same. It's being authentic, okay? And again, when you can be authentic and you look at, okay, how you can help others without any expectation, just kind of
Mhm.
like what we just talked about, that client
Yeah.
of mine, just connecting you. I think that's so important for people, and I think people can see that within interactions. Don't overpromise too when you're trying to work on things. With companies, for me, I always say to them, hey, this is what we've seen, with companies similar to yours. You know, pretty confident we can see those same results, but I'm never going to promise anything there. And I just think for me, just I'll say again, being authentic.
Yeah.
The other thing is helping people, right? I'm seeing some people struggle, and I'm all about, I've always done my, Wednesday wisdom posts and try to
Yes.
just put some positive energy out there. And I think it's helping people. And I've seen this past year for myself, helping multiple people find jobs, people that are looking for jobs. How can you make a connection? And I always say to individuals that if you're looking for a job, you can reach out to me. I can't say, of course, that I can help you right away, but if I see things, I can
Yeah.
forward them to you. Or even if it's something on LinkedIn, right? And we both have a LinkedIn presence. I might see something. If I could forward that just as an FYI, and maybe it would work out. And I just had one happen this week where it worked out, and it just so happens it's in Georgia where my contact was at, and it was like a perfect fit, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know. I think my wisdom there is again just helping others, and to me it's going to be if you can help someone, obviously it's a positive, and I think that's just going to be reflective on how you are as an individual too.
Yes. Service first. Actually, I don't know if you realize this, but you just covered the first two letters of Alice, our methodology on how to lead change, acting
Okay,
with authenticity and leading with love.
love it.
I mean, you got it. That's why we make such a good partnership.
There you go.
All
Oh.
right. Okay. So, kind of a final question here.
Mhm.
Any parting thoughts, any exciting other news that we haven't covered today that you would like to share with this audience?
Oh, yes. I guess now that you bring that up, we just actually have our 300th client. So you think of
Whoa!
300 clients. So yeah, that was pretty exciting to do that. I mean, again, we've obviously talked with more companies than that, but when you talk about really
Yeah.
getting projects and engaging, so that was pretty exciting. We're on track to exceed over 250 million in savings for clients this year, which will be our biggest year of savings ever. So that's pretty exciting. And we're expanding more with our global capabilities. I was over in London earlier this year on a project. And again, it's just, I see more expansion, what we're going to be doing globally. Of course, there, you're kind of tied with what can be done with suppliers and how you can leverage them too. And, again, when you think of different contracts and how they're based, if they're, US based versus over in Europe, I mean, you've got to really break it down and understand it. So that comes back to too with don't overpromise what you can do when you start to
Right.
reach out there and look what you're doing. We're trying to stick in certain areas where we can do things globally. So there's really just right now for us, there's probably just like 3 areas we work in on a global basis. But no, so expanding that is exciting too. But it's just, I do feel, and tying back to what you initially said at the start of our conversation,
Mhm.
if we're seeing more CPOs and C-suite people looking, hey, how can we find outside expertise to help impact our bottom line within our company, and I think transfer that knowledge then too within the company. I think that's so important for us too. It's not just, hey, we do this project and see you later. It's we're involved for years and years with companies then, and it's helping them understand areas, but then also educating them and hopefully being impactful on their overall strategy too.